Good morning, everyone. Thames Community Board meeting, 23rd of September. And we'll kick off by any apologies, thank you. No apologies, it's all good. Public forum, no one in public forum. No. Items not on the agenda, are there any items not on the agenda?
No.
No? That's easy, any conflicts of interest? Should be. Minutes for confirmation, 1.5, I'll take them as being read. Are there any points of clarification or queries related to those minutes?
Just a couple of typos.
Thank you.
Page 4. It's in the funding round there.
Abstentions, is that spelled wrong?
Okay, pass.
Can I, please? Yes, thank you. I put in a early departure. Yes. But I didn't depart after the meeting, so I left at the workshop, but not leaving. Yeah.
Has that been recorded correctly? It's all right.
Yeah, it's been recorded correctly. We just happened to finish the meeting before you actually departed, you know, that's just the sequence of events.
Okay, that's fine.
Right, just as long as it hasn't been like that against me.
Probably should just say board member.
No.
Ariana,
Yes.
that the first table on page 5, are those the ones that show that we had a conflict of interest that I was?
Yes.
Okay, that my conflicts were with Transition Town Thames Agency and the Thames Community Centre, not with Totally Thames.
That, I don't know about the Thames Community Centre one, but that one was actually for Martin.
Oh, okay, well that's fine then.
Yeah, page 6, the missing word. At the bottom of page 6, resolved, the Thames Community Board allocates from the Thames Community Board discretion fund to the Thames Croquet Club to assist or to something or other. There's a missing word in there.
To assist with rates payments for 2019-2020. One word to be included there. Thanks, Peter.
And just with the aerodrome, sorry, I didn't like this. In the table on section 4.3, the board requested that the suggestion of covering the underground, where it's actually the overhead wires.
Okay.
Just because we were talking about underground and overhead stuff, and that's related.
Yeah, I was looking at a low-cost option in terms of some safety. Yeah,
Which is still there.
that's all right. Thanks, Pete. Any other matters arising from the minutes? Mover and seconder for those minutes. Thanks.
Yes.
Those
Moved,
amendments.
Sheree, second, Martin. Thank you very much. We shall move on to the action plan 2.1. Page 22 of your agenda. I'll take those plans as being read. I'll let Ariana, would you, or Karen, like to speak to the action plan in terms of any outstanding issues, any queries that you might have?
No, just with the overhead wires, the suggestion that you made last time, stretched, will be considered as part of the long-term planning process.
Oh, okay, that's good. Any of our board members got any
Yeah, so on the item, there's change in speed limit of footpath, so it's a closed, identified as a closed section, but we haven't heard anything back yet, have we, about those?
No, but it has been given, the action has been given to parents. But I understand in your report that you've raised that, the fact that you might like a couple of meetings. Some sort of notification, sure if that's in fruition or not.
I guess what I'm thinking here is, so we've seen requests.
Yeah.
How do we follow up? How do we ensure we get a response back from somebody to say, oh, by the way,
there's can be
we submitted denied or actually not answering your questions or something like that. And that's, I would have thought we would be tracking that on the action sheet.
I can keep it as open if you would,
Okay.
if that is your preference.
Yeah. It'd be
Yeah,
good, 'cause-
through the chair, can I suggest that we make an action around request a response from the Michael Jones, even planning manager on this matter, so that we get to kind of close that loop, so that the board is getting that hasn't gone into business.
Is that a loop that should go through Tony Fox as well as the representative of the council? Or is Michael Jones taken over that's job now? In terms of.
No.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I just also wanted some clarification around that, because I know Tony Fox's role is NZTA
So
liaison, whereas this is a local road. So I don't think it's been referred to Tony at all.
So, and I was on that committee up until a year ago, and it is strategic and it's the regional roading, and it's run through the regional council. And I think Tony absolutely needs to be over the top of what we're doing with reducing speed, but I think, I can't say specific, so particular issues I think have to still stay with us, and then it's all turned, as far as I'm concerned, that'll be all up in the air with what Ash Tanner's done now, because mayor's directly broken the law, and I'm just waiting for a board of trustees chair at some rural school to think, well, a mayor's done it, so I'm now going to put a 50 on it, please, yeah. So I think it's interesting times, quite frankly.
Yeah.
$300 odd for the sign,
Yeah.
just saying.
200,000 if you get to it.
You will, who knows about it?
I mean,
Well,
that's,
actually, that's what he said.
Yeah.
And I don't think that many mayors are going to go out and do it. No one's seen what's happened to him yet. So there would be that whole
So,
participation with the reprimand that will come.
Sandra did say that there is support in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Then it raised a very good question relating to how we have regard to this and what process might be required, whether it's through the consultation or what. You consult something like that through, you wouldn't consult through long-term plan, but some sort of public consultation in terms of the process to ascertain the region, not only just the Valley residents, think that road, which is a tourist destination to the pinnacles and so forth, the use of that road is increased generally since I lived up there, and all sorts of issues relating to safety, and it's a very valid query in terms of reviewing that speed limit there, because I've driven that road for 30 years or so, you've for a long, long time. 8 years almost impossible.
And I was driving down it the other day, and the sunstrike, I don't know what part of the day it was, but it was really dangerous. Someone had been walking or on a cycle, and I had been going very slowly. My visibility was like, Bruce might be a good person.
Can I just say, now, just while talking about this, because back some years ago, there was the talk about Spatial
Yes.
and the reduction of the speed limit there. And my understanding was that residents were going to go and knock doors and ask for more support, and that they want the speed limit reduced. Is that's not a similar thing?
Yes.
Yes, it is. The only difference is that it's a state highway and this is local.
Yeah.
And
But I'm
so,
saying around
same
it,
principle.
maybe that's what we need.
So we do have a new roading manager now, so can I suggest that, for this to go to meet as roading manager to provide a response around what process might be best to use.
That's an excellent idea, thank you. This is Karen, yes, speed limits and getting a response relating to the process that might be required. Yep. So, yes, the other day, actually, I was there to drive, so we're up here saying, yeah, that's exciting. Really exciting. Yeah. 280 kilometres per hour. And lots of cars and bikes, especially during the summer.
So just one further point. I know when we were talking about the speed limit out at Kuranui, there seemed to be differing thoughts, I think from, well, either between Tony and staff about whether there is value to elected members going and door knocking amongst the various businesses, including the school and the St John's and that, as to whether that would help or not, or whether the decision is more a strategic type one. So I mean, I've always thought, well, if NZTA got 4 or 5 things in the space of a couple of weeks about that, that would make them change their mind. But I'm not quite that naive anymore. But what's the best way to get bang for our buck as far as trying to get some momentum going with that? Do we collect them and give them to Tony? Do we?
You know, the most squeaky wheels.
Indeed.
And so if you've got more, isn't that better than 4?
I just don't know.
And I think.
I'm looking at Bruce now.
Yes, I don't know, I don't know the answer, but I guess from my perspective, I would suggest that the more activity and noise you get, the better, you know, so possibly it's like I would say it's more than one approach, you know, so we make sure that Tony as the RTC rep is aware of it and on it, and this is a key priority for the board. And you also, I don't think it's going to hurt to have the community out there also pushing in that direction as well with the NZTA. You know, if they want that change. So we actually have a multi-pronged approach, I think, to try and keep the pressure on to get that change. There are some changes coming around the whole speed management approach, and I was speaking with Tony yesterday morning just briefly. So you might hear a bit more about that into the detail, but it sounds like that might change next year. So.
Because it feels like we've been having the same conversation for years now, and we haven't had a circuit breaker, and we're waiting for government to circuit break it, and it hasn't worked.
Yeah.
And so we somehow within this organisation need a circuit breaker to make it more coordinated. And you know, just, you know, in the 50, we've had, you know, a person lose their life just down in Queen Street. And so that means that the whole issue of safety is even more acute and Kuranui 70, for heaven's sake. So, yeah.
So what made that more acute than anything else is the fact that it has some amenities there that are quite large. In other words, you've got the ambulance there, you've got sailing club, you've got Tauri restaurant, you've got the mining experience, you've got.
So if you've got all of them
Oh,
writing or saying,
that's
we
what,
start to read numbers.
that's what we thought was going to be important, getting the letters from there in terms of that. Within a very short space, all these things exist.
I mean, I live up that way, and I've had conversations with my neighbours about it and people who live in the 70 zone, and they've all been very supportive of the idea of it changing. I've asked, what do you think about the speed limit? There was a suggestion by somebody at Public Forum that it changed, and there has been quite a lot of support, certainly from the people who live there. Anecdotally, we're calling that.
I remember fancying that.
So from, I think Bruce hit the nail on the head in terms of just any supports is great, but I think what's very relevant to that area is those public facilities or public facilities that are very busy.
All I'd say is don't raise public expectation unless, as an organisation, we're prepared and we've got a plan and we're going to run with it,
Yeah.
both at a transit level and at a local road. So that would be my, are we ready internally to have this noise?
And to have this conversation.
Yeah,
Very well
and to
founded.
actually move it forward.
Couldn't agree more, something. So,
That's the challenge.
yeah.
So how long have you been kicking this around the table?
But Tony was quite prepared to actually take the case forward.
Yes,
So
I
I'm not sure what's resulted from that.
Well, what will have resulted is that it'll be on an action sheet and they'll say there's national guidelines coming out next year.
Yeah.
And then, you know, with all due respect to Tony, he still struggles with reducing speed limits. He might agree with that one, but then they go to the paper and talk about the Koku-Hikawai. So as an organisation, politically, we have mixed messages about speed. And I think we have to own that, and I don't agree with that, but that is how it is.
Yeah. So I just thought because it's a volume of facilities there that require people to slow down, it might set itself apart from other cases where, you know, that it wouldn't be so urgent or so necessary. So that's why.
And I think the valley is hugely.
So from my point of view,
Okay.
I think the issue is ensuring these things get followed up on, right? So we just end up having a discussion that's come out of what Alan Young did present to us in January. And this, the Coromandel Valley is what Core presented back in July or whatever it is. And so what I'm saying, what my concern is, how do we follow these things through to a conclusion, right? And putting in the action schedule, it doesn't matter, it's now closed, doesn't keep it alive, no, right? And so we need to keep that thing alive. And so, you know, keep that open until we hear back from whatever it is what we've asked council to do. We get that report back and then, okay, well, that's the situation, and then we've got to figure out what these things. So the issue for me is keeping these things alive and making sure that we're held accountable, making sure that whoever's supposed to be following up is held accountable as well. And then that way we can drive it through the end rather than it suddenly becoming another ad hoc discussion. It would be good to
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Yeah. I mean, the issue is that nothing's closed until there's a conclusion, and you know what that conclusion is. So, yeah. Is that really what you're saying, isn't it? And Kurungu has been the subject of an issue for a long, long time. Not just before Alan Young presented anything.
Can I suggest as something that the board might want to think about in terms of Kurungu and maybe the support that you're getting, and that maybe the board might want to have a conversation with MP of Coromandel about it, because as the Member of Parliament and as NZTA is a central government ministry, it might be in his interest to advocate for the speed limit reduced. But it just may need a few more people in the room manipulating and manoeuvring. And with that support as well, it just gives,
Some weight to
it'll
it.
give them some,
There's some weight, and you might be able to
not,
say we're in the right one.
but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
And therefore, maybe council won't need to have their ducks in a row, that's pretty silly.
It's having both ducks in a row, isn't it? But he was just put the right.
Seconding
the right
that.
course.
Through the chair, can I just make a suggestion? I think because you did a good job after the meeting. Do you want me to try and get Ed Darling, the new roading manager, to pop in? And chat about the actions, you know, picking up Peter's point, very good point. Or the actions are taken, we can just see, we'll just have a quick chat, we've got a concrete plan of different approaches that we're going to try and keep it moving forward so everyone knows what everyone's doing.
No, that's good. Excellent, thanks, Bruce. So that's what's coming out of that. We'll be through the public during the project. So there's a suggested resolution. Can I have a member in a second?
Yeah, I'll make up.
That's
Yes, I'll second.
second, Sheree. No further queries. 2.2. Thames Community Board Work Programme. Take it as being read. Any matters arising from that work programme from Community Board. Thank you. A little bit more information around the 700,000 project. Total value.
Yes, Total value.
I wouldn't mind, but I've got a little bit confused about what's in the total value. In terms of it seemed that, as I read this, and I might have misread it, but as I read this, it kind of seemed that the whole emphasis now is the intersection between Total Valley Road and State Highway 1. And I think it was about the putting in infrastructure and so on.
So through the chair, I'll give you a little more detail on that. So if we cast our minds back, we did have budget to do all the infrastructure, or a large part of the infrastructure. It's been shifted a couple of times due to financial pressures. And what happened was that in the for the 2021 year, the decision was made to shift the majority of the infrastructure money, but hang on to a certain amount of money to get the initial work done. So that's why the initial focus is on the intersection, because before you can do anything else, you've really got to get the intersection started moving. So the money at the moment for this year is around design and a bit of consenting and around trying to get that intersection done, and then moving forwards next year, subject to the LTP, to carry on with all the other infrastructure across the three waters and the road. Right. So at this stage, the intersection stuff is between us and the TTA and working with them.
So the grand plan, the intersection is kind of, is a prerequisite.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. You've got to do some changes there around how you do that intersection, whether you have like a right turn bay so the cars can get into that if they're heading north, turning into Tocharani Road, everyone else can slip past. So the other thing that we'll have to do in conjunction with NZTA is there's a culvert that's quite close just to the south end under the road that's actually undersized, and so that will need to be upgraded to handle the stormwater that comes down Totra Valley, particularly if we upgrade the stormwater that brings it down quicker. You know, so you bring the water down quicker. If you put development up there, more roads, more houses, you're going to end up with a lot more water coming down. So yes, there's a couple of things that we've got to get up there.
One suggestion that was made to me was to close the bridge, go back to the old bridge, and that way just sort of naturally get breaks in traffic.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I'm not sure if the old bridge is up there, but
So it's a good idea.
Thanks.
good's a relative term, like that.
Thanks for the explanation.
No, good explanation, thanks, Bruce. Any other aspects related to the work programme?
Do you know when it starts to prepare for toilets?
It's very cool toilets. I don't have any more detail on it, I don't think. Just moving this one. I don't, sorry, no, I'll find out. The detail on top frame, sorry.
And it says, I couldn't understand the budget for that long. Like it said, the current budget was 31, that we spent 30 of it already. We're only going to spend another $700 and we still haven't built anything. Like, is that just a mistake?
Yeah, I'll double check that as well.
Yeah.
We've got, these ones are always a little bit funny because we're kind of just into the new financial year, and sometimes the team use, if it's a multi-year project, they're quoting numbers from like last year instead of this year.
Right.
So, you know, apologies if that's what's happened.
I'm going to remove it. Ross will be with us.
Yeah, we can answer those
He'll be
questions.
later with us at Coco.
Yeah, Ross will be able to answer those questions.
So essentially with the Totra Valley extensions, it's all preliminary design work.
It's preliminary design, yeah.
Stormwater intersection off.
Yes,
And then the long-term plan.
is where we get into the big infrastructure, but we
We'll get.
We want to try and get some of that intersection work done this year if we can, so we do have budget in there to try and make some changes to that intersection in conjunction with the NZTA if we need to, if we can, sorry, yeah, because we do need to. So it's a bit of a combination of design and a bit of work.
No, thanks, Bruce. Any other queries? Thank you.
We've tweaked this table a little bit and changed it around how we manage it. So it's being managed out of my team, out of the project delivery team now, and we've added a few extra columns in there that you might have noticed around who's managing the project, so we know who's actually on that. We've added some more columns around the budget that will get more useful as we go through the year. So we've got the current budget, year to date, and then forecast. Because obviously, as you go through the year, we might start forecasting we're going to bring it in under, or maybe we need more money and we have to bring a report back. So at least we can kind of show that, and then also expect a completion date, which the majority is the financial year, but we do get, you know, as we go through the year, we'll get a better handle and more accuracy on when things will actually be finished. So I think that's useful information for the board. You know, you guys know the car park reseal should be done by the end of November or whatever, you know. So, yeah.
So just another important question, which sort of relates to our work programs, is the long-term plan and engagement that might need to take place with the Thames Community Board regarding any budgets that,
Yes.
that you know, for the Thames Community Board, and ensuring that in fact we have an opportunity to have a look at those long-term plan budgets before any decisions are made.
Yes.
You know, so it's very important that in fact we are coordinating that. It's coming back to us so that we know we can manage what we want for our local area. And also the considerations that might be happening on a district scale. So, you know, all sorts of things come to mind in relationship to our streetscape, long-term plan budgets, how they might be able to be coped with, Bible books, all sorts of things. So, it's really important that process is known to the Thames community.
Yeah, I think Erin's the conduit to that, you know, and I know Erin's already been involved in some of the meetings that have been had around that. So I totally understand what you're saying, Stuart. You know, it's making sure the board are aware of what's going up in the budgets at this stage and making sure that everyone understands what the board's views are on those projects. Before they then go up to council as part of that process to be locked in as draft budgets to then go out to community consultation. Obviously, the board can always submit on the LTP, but it's ideal if you guys, obviously, it's preferable if you know what's going on and you're ahead of the game on that stuff.
So it's really to be just an update on that. When I do my innovating streets workshop, we've also got on an LTP CapEx budget review as well. Finance provided it today. For that, my understanding is that Mercury Bay Coromandel have provided their feedback so that your managers have asked to provide comment, but I'll be able to give you what it is to date. So otherwise, a special workshop would be required this year before the 6th of October, and given a lot of new work, but we can try and do it on these meetings. I think that's the best outcome we will.
Oh, well, we'll be available in the sense that, you know, timing is everything.
Absolutely, that's what
so
I'm
we've got to
providing
do it in a timely way.
Yeah.
So it's such an important thing.
Absolutely.
Going forward.
Yeah, I would say we've got some serious, as I know you're aware, of Frontier, it's like Keys, but we've got some serious financial constraints and pressures on the whole organisation and all community boards and all activities. So
I appreciate that.
So we're really, which makes our job and your job a lot harder. You know, we're trapped between, you know, community aspirations and then also on one side community aspirations around rates on the other side. So we've really got a hard job.
And you know, with that pressure, I think it's just ensuring that in fact we're thinking naturally about how we might be able to bring things to the table and how we might be able to achieve things over the next, you know, 16 years.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, I could go to streetscape because I believe we've built such fantastic momentum into that. And, you know, it'd be nice to see that we've got nothing in the next 3 years relating to just finishing the job and going to Ferry Street or whatever. But, you know, it's also with 2 budgets and, at the same time. I'm just talking about.
Yes, no, I understand what you're saying.
Things. All right, no, that's good.
The other thing I'd say is we always end up with this pressure on us for LTP. And sometimes, you know, like say innovative streets, you're only just getting into that now, you know, so potentially results of that are not going to be out in time to inform LTP budgets, you know. So there's always that reality that there might be some stuff that actually does have to come later that would come as an out of cycle that would be workshopped and brought by the board or by council at a later date, you know. I mean, we do have times obviously if we get drafts out by Christmas around budgets. We've got consultation, changes can be made through consultation, so there is some time, but I'm just always conscious that everyone feels the pressure, staff and elected members, that, you know, here's the LTP deadline, everything's got to be ready by then, and you know, things don't always go to that 3-year cycle so neatly.
So is February or March, that's usually the last time for getting the information gathered in concrete form for a
Yeah.
long-term plan.
So normally we have for the budgets, everything drafted, ready to go pre-Christmas for consultation. And then there might be a few tweaks in January or February, and then it goes out usually in March. We go for consultation,
So-
March would be a consultation
Possible
period.
to tweak it in February if we've got more information.
Yep.
Innovative Streets
Yep.
program.
Yeah, definitely, yeah, I think so, yeah, it's just trying to juggle all that, trying to balance it, and get good information in.
Well, I think when you go to December, that we've got a reasonable sum in there anyway. And sort of go from there in terms of whether we need to defer it for 1 year
Yeah.
or whatever. But,
Yeah, I mean, we've got this, so if we talk about December as having the budgets landed for the consultation, but we're actually landing the budgets now, we've got to get them done now, so then get all the finance stuff through to everything just goes through this pipeline, so it's quite a laborious bureaucratic process to navigate our way through.
Okay. We'll have a long-term plan workshop coming up.
Yes, yeah.
Awesome. Thank you. Any further questions related to that? Sorry, I had to bring that up just to make sure that. I'll move for a second.
Yep.
That's right. Second, thank you. Thanks. Very good. That part of 2.3 members' reports. There's some members' reports that have been submitted. I think yours and mine. I'll take it. Well, they're not here. But take it as being read.
They'll be printed to
Anyone else? Peter, did you want to speak?
Can I just add a couple of comments? I've been staying with the positive feedback about the hurricane. We had one negative feedback, which from a woman who asked could it be tilted the other way so you can see it coming into town. That's the only negative. And I would like to recommend that we will write a letter to the people who developed that to express our gratitude and thanks and amazement at a stunning outcome. Secondly, I hear exactly the opposite about sculpture. People are getting so worked up about it. What society do I need to join to get rid of it? Things like that. But in terms of thank you letters, I wonder if the community board could also acknowledge what Rotary had done with the model dam at the Dock Visitor Centre. It's repaired, it works, it's fantastic. They've got grant money from us to do that, but it's done, it's working, and it's great to see when they trip it, to see the water flowing through. So just an acknowledgement of the fact that they actually got the job done. Cool.
It's a thoughtful action period. Very good, thank you. So you'll be guys in that with me, Ariana and Karen. Any other queries from our reports? That's been reminded, then we'll go on to yours.
I've just noticed in the paper yesterday that there's an ad for a part-time coordinator of the Treasury. So their paid person must have moved on. So I'm just wondering how they are and whether I think we've discussed whether we might have a linkage with them or get a report about how they're going, etc. Because I think they're one of our sort of we funded for 3 years, and so I just felt as if that was a change. Martin and I went to the Citizens Advice Bureau OGM. They're 14 as a national organisation this year. November the 28th is they're having a high tea in the Civic Centre. So I'm helping them with that. At council, I too think that just feeding back from what you said, Peter, I think the bad of Britain stuff and the hurricane has been amazing for the town. And I noticed on TV1 that they had the celebrations in England, but they linked to keep up at the end back to Paul and Thames, but didn't actually come to fill in this. But, the home leave will be forgotten at some stage, no doubt. I'm feeling positive around the town, around the narrative, around how things are moving forward. So well done, because I think everyone plays their part in that. Bruce has already talked about the challenges of financial challenges, and I think that sits with us all. And just so that you're aware, if you haven't picked it up, there's 3 consultations out at the moment around the gambling policy, the water demand, and the community engagement. So I think they're all really important. That's all I've got to say. And
the policy is up for review, is it?
yes, so they're out for public consultation at this point in time. We've got the report time. We've got many more machines than what other people have. We've got a high usage of those machines. And so we've got a real problem. Our policy is tight and plan to get tighter, so it's not like we're supportive of gambling.
No.
But I think we need support to support it. Does that make sense? I'm talking.
Yeah,
Do
just
we have a
support.
sinking lid or not?
Yeah, we definitely have a sinking limit, and we have a no transfer policy, i.e. so if one shuts down, they can't give those machines or the license to somebody else.
However, there was that graph showing the spend going up and the number of machines going down.
Yeah,
So in a way, the number of machines is actually a bit of a red herring.
yeah, but I think it still helps.
Yeah.
And as a council, what can we do? It's a health issue as well. Gambling.
It's because it affects those at home.
Absolutely, it's typical.
So, I'll put in mine, not that I've done a lot, but I don't have the radio call-outs, which I was quite nervous at first, and then it just sort of rolled out, so I felt like I was really good at it. And then, so I did the creative life, and the CEO sent an nomination, which I thought was really nice. Haven't heard, anybody heard what's happened? Have they? Okay. I did domestic tourism and visitor scheme, partnering up with Kotahi to support business, and talked about community service boards. I went to Copenhagen Marine Development, Shindig. I've actually, yesterday we did the shoreline management panel induction, which was great, although I had one that was seen around it, but that's all right. But interesting, eh?
Yeah, it was good. It was very good to actually see who the other people on the panel, and just in the hour and a half we had to kind of figure out who's who of the Zoo and some of the challenges that the
And one interested in stuff that's happening, the whole innovation and all that sort of stuff. So that was really good. And just the last thing is, as a community board member, I had quite a few calls around the UFB installation and things in our room in terms of the invoices that they received. Now, I do know that that has been dealt with, but I still took a lot of calls around that. That was some pretty upset, irate, and didn't know where they were going to find the money kind of people. So, yeah, that was me.
Excellent, thank you. Anyone else like to offer any of their members' reports at this stage?
Okay, I'll try to keep it brief. I can send Ariana, I can send you a copy of this. I didn't have to take notes of it.
Thank you.
We're starting to the CAB AGM, and it's, how many years celebration are they doing? 40? And yeah, the main thing I got from that is that we looked at their financials reports they hand out, and they operate on an absolute shoestring budget. It's, it's kind of really rag, whatever cliche you want to use. But yeah, we felt it was important to be there, and that celebration in November will be, if we can kind of make sure we circulate that, because an important part of our community. We also had a transport spatial plan meeting, which had representatives from leechers, the quarry owners, it had Coromandel couriers, it had a logging firm, it had tourist operators, it had cycle tourist operators.
And cyclists.
Intercity, sorry?
And cyclists.
Yep.
Yeah.
Intercity. And it was just a really good forum, and they run them all around the peninsula to talk about the backbone of the State Highway 25 loop around the peninsula. And yeah, just looking at the challenges and trying to get their commitment from NZTA about whether it's a crucial piece of infrastructure that they'll defend, no matter what. So there was lots of good positives there, and just sort of seeing all those people in a room together, the networking was good. Yes, again, I went to the art opening on the corner of Pollen and Mary Street, and yes, people are talking about it, which is, that's the thing about art, is it doesn't matter to my mind if people like it or not, the people are talking about it, and it just fits in really well with the creative vibe. I have had one person lament the losing of 1.5 car parks, but the vast majority, and I think you're getting 50 odd people a day.
So I have my stat.
Oh, sorry, I'll let you
I
do
would
that.
say you're getting 484 people through.
Yeah.
Initially.
Yeah.
It's 5% population.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
amazing.
Just
Yeah.
fantastic.
It's amazing.
It's probably the best ever.
Also attended virtually a creative Coromandel planning workshop. Went to the Rotary meeting in Thames with Sally, and yeah, so they discussed, the Rotary are putting money in, I think it's over 100,000 into a number of shelters, and I can't remember how many there are, 20, 30?
16 shelters.
Sorry?
Something like 16 shelters.
Yeah, so they've got like a prototype shelters along the rail trail, but the project goes all the way through to the far end.
Matamata and Kaiao.
Yeah, so it's a number of different Rotary clubs have got involved. There was a little bit of frustration around where they were going to put their prototype, but there's been some discussion, I think, about it out at the stockyard, out in the Ngāti Maru. And they also talked about the Kauri Dam up at in the Tauranga Valley, and yeah, it's a great little project, but at the moment they have got issues with DOC around when they're allowed to trip it. I think there's some health and safety stuff that DOC are being a little bit funny about. I also went to the Business After 5 at Burton's, and I gave a brief update on the financial information that we got from Infometrics. Again, for the hurricane, went out and helped do some time-lapse video and other coverage of that going up. It's pretty cool. And in association with that, the Battle of Britain, marking that out at the airfield on Sunday morning, and Robin and I laid a wreath at the Civic. Also went to the Coca Marine Precinct celebration with Mr. Peters, and the thing that I found the most interesting about that was that Winston said it's the first thank you celebration thing they had of all the provincial 2.something billion that they've handed out. Thames was the first one to do like an actual celebration thank you thing, which is quite staggering in my mind. And Winston also noted the fact that there were 3 mayors there, and he said that it was not in the least bit common to have that sort of level of cooperation. And so happy about that. And yes, and again, like Cherie also had a number of residents talking about the fibre install. And yeah, they kind of raised the communication issue, but also the people getting a bit of a petition together, and then once that petition is presented, there does seem to be a not great communication as to what's then happening, and then all of a sudden, the footpath gets built, and then all of a sudden fibre gets laid and bills get sent. So I think Sandra went to a meeting up the coast and fronted up about that. So seems to be being resolved or being looked at. Yeah.
Well, and I think that's so painful somehow differently.
Somehow differently, yes, and that's my report.
No,
Your
there's
question.
been a lot of input and that's awesome. Anyone else, Robin?
Yes, I've been thinking quite a lot about public transport. Actually, and Peter and I had a lovely meeting last week with Jasper from Thames Taxis about, because we've been talking as a committee about public transport, we thought we should probably go and have a conversation with providers as a, how do you feel and how's it going for you? And so that was very productive. I thought that was actually a really good use of our time. Earlier that morning, I'd actually been the council representative on the Regional Connections Committee, which was held virtually, chaired by Waikato Regional Council, and it was, the focus was public transport, and they were there to discuss public transport, just have an open conversation. Our councillor Dennis Teague spoke about the plan that he presented to us with the different options for public transport here, which was, the model was well received by the committee as something that they think is going to work really well for the entire region, and looking at if it works for the district here, where else it could work as a model. So that was very cool. And the nice take home from that whole committee was that the regional council is very keen to build relationships with all the district partners to get public transport happening. So that was very productive. I too have been out and about. I spent a couple of mornings in the container, usually with Michael. I seem to time it really well with my days off and with Michael. And really great conversations. People have obviously been talking to me a lot about the sculpture as well. And one, I guess, conversation that I wasn't expecting was that one person said that she avoids that area because she was born and raised in an area where dropping bombs on people was the thing that other people did, and so she cannot be in that area because it's such a visceral response for her. And I thought, wow, that's an unintended thing that we didn't think about, not that we chose what it was. And I thought that was worth passing on. I don't think that voice has been heard yet. But it's been, the whole response to the Create the Vibe has been very positive. I've had a lot of people saying that they really enjoyed the experience of being able to go and have frank conversations with people, and that they went along with their dumb idea, which turned out that lots of other people had wasn't so dumb. So that was a really well played, guys, and I really thanks Erin and your team, because it's been really lovely to see that level of participation, level of engagement. It was, and even going down there and spending the days, it was just awesome. And the only other thing that's really come up is we've had a couple of conversations about crossings, pedestrian crossings on Queen Street following the death of that pedestrian last week. I know last year there was a petition put forward, Age Concern was involved in it, but it was actually led by Supported Lifestyle Trust to get a pedestrian crossing further up Queen Street, which NZTA did not take kindly to. But I think it might be now time, with the indications that are coming out of Waka Kotahi, to think about where else we might want pedestrian crossings, or where might another place be to have another safe pedestrian crossing on the state highway, because there is a one going through town all the way up.
Good idea.
Yeah,
Especially on the Supported Lifestyle Trust.
yeah. So I'm happy to follow that up. And
Actually,
sorry.
I think it should be a hump.
Yeah.
Because it just slows down, like the humps in the main street should be a hump.
Yeah.
So we're about 20 minutes behind our program.
Oh, sorry.
No, I think that the only other thing I have to say is that it's really nice that Thames feels like it's on the map at the moment. That lots of things are happening, and it's quite a busy place to be, Erin?
You're working on it.
We're working hard at that.
Good, thank you.
Thanks, Robin, that's really good. I know Cheryl, you submitted a report to me and I forwarded it to Erin, so we're making comments about it. All right, that's the members' report, so mover and second, thank you. Thanks, Sheree. Thanks, Mark. With all that. Sorry to keep you waiting there, but if you'd like to come forward.
I'll move to close, oh, do we keep them with me?
We just need to declare the window.
It's fine, okay.
Yeah, I'll declare with the meeting and I'll do it for that. So, thanks, Martha.